Welcome aboard to another episode of OG 55. In this episode, we are talking all about a possible third park coming to the Disneyland Resort. I know we've talked about this before, but Daddy Josh Diamaro, said some interesting stuff recently. We're going to dive into that. We're also going to talk about the demographics, the crowds that Epic Universe might be attracting. And is it a problem or is it maybe not so much a problem? We're going to talk about that up next on OG 55. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG 55. I got the Italiano with me today. We're talking all about a third possible gate at Disneyland. We're also going to talk about what people. Hey, look, no. I've never hidden the fact that I'm not a coaster guy. I don't like to be thrown and tossed around on these attractions. Does Epic Universe have enough for people like myself? I don't know. We're going to talk about it. We're going to bring up a tweet from a friend of ours, Michael Ebba, and we're going to break that down. But before I do that, the Italiano is in the house. George, if you could let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. You could find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you'll find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info. And we just recently done a Citrus Corner, me, OG, and our buddy Slimer, we're talking all about Italian pasta and pizza around the Disney park. So if you haven't checked that out yet, definitely that's something a good watch, because it was really fun to record. So I think you all will enjoy it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, buddy.
Absolutely. All right, so let's dive into the first topic at hand today, shall we? Give me just a moment. Okay, so this is from KTLA. This is like a local news station out here. Disney has, oh man, my mouse wants to do its own thing today. Okay, Disney has enough room for another Disneyland. And that was a quote. In Anaheim, park chairman says, it says here, there is still space to build another Disneyland in Anaheim. Disney theme park chairman Josh Diamaro announced on Tuesday. Now, this was on November 22nd, so it was a couple weeks ago, during an employee town hall in New York City. Quote, we've got so much space to play with. Disneyland, for example, Walt's original theme park, we still have enough room to build another Disneyland there if we choose to do that, end quote, Diamaro said during the event, according to The Hollywood Reporter. Now, this is interesting, George, because a lot of fans are not really talking about this. And I can kind of understand why. I mean, Josh, let's be honest, Josh, he does a lot of blue sky, maybe, what if, could we, should we, imagine the possibilities, all that stuff. So when he says something like this, which is pretty earth shattering, and I'll kind of give my opinion as to why I think it is earth shattering. But when he gives a statement like this, fans kind of shrug it off now. It's like, it's just words, because he's not really acting on a lot of the stuff. It's a lot of blue sky stuff. It's like the boy who cried wolf, so to speak, right?
Exactly.
But before I give my take on this, George, what are your thoughts on this in terms of another room for another Disneyland at the Disneyland Resort?
And I think this is something that you and I have talked about many times on and off camera. This is also someone, Bricky from Hey Bricky had covered this on his channel. So definitely a shout out to Bricky. He does amazing content on his YouTube channel. That he went around like the different locations within Anaheim where a potential third gate would be, and we all kind of had that same initial thought that the Toy Story parking lot would be the perfect area for a third gate, because it's pretty much around 75 acres, which is about the same size as DCA. But what was actually kind of interesting was when Diamaro had mentioned this as well, he didn't mention DCA, he mentioned Disneyland. So I found that was kind of interesting. Now, Disneyland, correct me if I'm wrong, OG, is that a slight bit bigger than DCA?
It is. I believe Disneyland is. Okay, so this is actually the Toy Story lot, which is 74 acres. And then next to it is DCA minus the Grand Cali, which is 73 acres.
Right.
So they're almost identical in acreage. I think Disneyland, if I'm not mistaken, and it grew a little bit with Galaxy's Edge, but I believe Disneyland is closer to 90 acres, if I'm not mistaken. But it is bigger than DCA. It's bigger than the Toy Story lot. That is interesting, though, George. You bring up a good point there that he mentioned another Disneyland. He didn't say, hey, we can build another park or another DCA. He said another Disneyland. That's fascinating.
And that also comes to the notion where I think Bricky touched upon this as well, and so did we, about the hotels surrounding that area. So if Disney was to acquire those hotels, kind of maybe move them or maybe get rid of them altogether, level out the land, you could potentially hit another 20 acres, around those four corners of that lot.
And they might, for all we know, I mean, I don't know if anyone knows at home, comment in the comments below, but they might even own the land that those hotels
That's true
on the lot rests on, and maybe those hotels pay Disney, to utilize that space. Who knows? I mean, I don't know the situation over there. They might not, but if they own the land, then all they have to do is just tell them, hey, we're not going to renew your lease or your contract or whatever. And then when all that expires, they can use that land. And again, this is speculation, but it's interesting.
Yeah. But even if it just comes out to the same size around DCA, I mean, I think honestly, it would be very detrimental to Disney if they don't utilize the Toy Story parking lot for a third gate.
Right.
I really think they're never going to get a piece of land that they already owned. They just need the rezoning, and sure enough, I mean, I know that'll take time.
Well, even Toy Story lot, though, is already zoned for a park. I think that happened during the Eisner era, I believe. So it's already there if they want it.
But they would still have to rezone other areas so they can get rid of that parking lot area.
Right.
So, I mean, they have it handed to them on a golden platter. So I really hope that they don't waste that opportunity.
Yeah, and I don't think they will. I mean, and here's the other thing too, is like, this is the first time, at least that I can remember, that a high-ranking Disney official, an executive, even mentioned the possibility of a third gate. Bob Iger said years ago, I believe, that he wasn't interested in it. This wasn't something that was really on their radar. For Josh to mention this and to even put that out there, like, a third gate, another Disneyland is even on the table, or they're even thinking about it, says a lot. Now, here's the other thing, though, that I'm going to kind of throw to you, George. And, this is also another way that we can kind of take this. I want to be fair and sort of address all the different angles. When he says we have enough room to build another Disneyland, maybe what he means, I'm very curious what you think, he doesn't necessarily mean another park, like a completed, park with all the acres in one little spot. Maybe what he means by another Disneyland, the acreage collectively adds up to another Disneyland. So it's like, 10 acres here,
I see.
15 acres here, 20 acres there.
So basically, like saying, like, it would double in the size of what essentially the resort is now, but not just as a whole section.
Right. You're not adding another park.
Right.
But you're adding Disneyland's acreage here and here and here.
And if that's
resort.
the case, DeMauro should really kind of
clarify
focus
that.
on his choice of words, because if that's really what he meant, a lot of people are not going to have that mentality to think, oh, okay, well, which way did he mean? Did he mean this way or that way? They're just going to say, oh, room for another Disneyland.
Right.
So
you got to be careful with that, because when you say we have enough room for another Disneyland, fans are going to take that at face value and say, hey, another park. And he might mean that, because technically they do have enough room for another park. I mean, the acreage, look, it's there. I mean, if you want to build a 75-acre DCA style park, they have the room to do that in Toy Story lot. They do. And that's if they just use it as is. That's not even using, like you said, George, if they want to buy up things or they want to, expand a little bit, and they can push out a few more acres, but they have the room. And Josh put it out there now. We have the room for another park, and now fans take that and go, oh, okay, maybe they're thinking about it. But what he really means is, well, we have 20 acres over in this lot. We got 15 acres over here. We can bulldoze that and get an extra 5. And collectively, it's 90 acres. It's technically another Disneyland. So that's the only thing that I'm kind of wondering about is does he mean a third gate, or does he mean collectively the acreage adds up to another Disneyland?
Exactly.
It's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy. But I think that with Disneyland Resort, though, for whatever reason, they seem very bullish right now in Anaheim. Burbank does. You're seeing a lot of movement with Disneyland Forward. Whenever you hear Bob Iger talk at these quarterly earnings calls and what have you, they seem to definitely focus on Disneyland and expanding this resort. They seem more bullish on this than, say, Florida, which is kind of seems a little more back burner, which I understand. You have a governor over there that's openly declared war on the Walt Disney Company. There's a lot of uncertainty there with the oversight, the tourism oversight district and what have you. So it might be a little bit more wait and see over there in Florida. But with Disneyland, it does feel like a little more momentum. Do you kind of get that impression, or am I kind of off base?
No. I definitely agree with you. I think, honestly, if there is going to be any sort of a pulse of a line that's going to be moving, it's going to be over at Disneyland. Right now, as much as they're having potential things in the pipeline for like the what ifs and the could be's and the maybes and the should be's, unfortunately, I feel like that has a lot to do with the issues in Florida right now. Yeah. I just feel like Disney is kind of stuck in a rut where they don't really know how things are going to pan out day for day with that. Right. And so they just kind of have to like keep it at bay. But I would rather, as you said, OG, I would rather Disney just come out and say that. Saying we're having some issues with Florida right now. We're going to throw some ideas of what could be, but this isn't probably going to be in the pipeline very soon because of these issues. I would respect Disney a little bit more to the understanding of why we're getting the what ifs. Right. But as far as for Disneyland goes, there's no excuse for these what ifs, because as long as we get it greenlit with Disneyland Forward, then it all should be cake and ice cream. Yeah, and it's looking like Disneyland Forward is gonna go through, and I think the vote, from what I understand, unless it's been pushed back, I think is around March of 2024, so it's coming up. And people say, well, Disneyland Forward is like a 30-year plan. It is a 30-year plan, but that doesn't mean that they don't do anything for 30 years. I think fans need to understand that as well, right? When we talk about Disneyland Forward, yes, it's a long-term 30-year plan, but that doesn't mean we have to wait 30 years for the first thing to show up. It's obviously going to be done in phases, and there's going to be an addition here, an addition there. And collectively, by the end of 30 years, they probably would have used it all, is what I think they're trying to say here. So it's exciting. If we can get this thing approved in March, who knows what? Maybe Pandora is the first thing we get for Disneyland Forward, So hopefully that's what it is, something like that. Which I would think that would be, because for Iger to mention that on a earnings call or a shareholders meeting, I don't understand how that could be mentioned and then it just not see the light of day for another 10, 15 years. Yeah, that would be, I'm telling you, and you've been critical too, we've been critical. I know people love to call us pixie dusters, but we're really not. We've been railing against Bob Iger on the PR messes. He's been really stepping in it with the PR, and so is Daddy Josh, They got to and honestly, more than the financials or more than any of that stuff, I think the PR stuff has been way, way more problematic for Disney right now. They have to regain the trust of the loyalist of the fans. They have to gain it back, because they're losing it, because they're trying to come up with ways of helping one situation, but they're creating another one by doing so. Oh yeah, no, completely. It creates these huge messes, and like we've said on many videos before, Bob Iger, please look, we are constructive fans, right? George and I, everyone here on the OG55 family, when we criticize, we want
Disney to do better and to thrive. You know, I'm telling you, Bob Iger, if by any chance any of his people ever come across this video, probably not, but if they do, please tell Bob to stay off CNBC. CNBC is not your friend, Bob. They consistently screw you over. Every time you get on that network, they go for the gotcha question, and it's all over the place. They soundbite it. I'm telling you, how many times has this man got to get on CNBC and get screwed over by them before he understands that it's not worth it? You know, you have your own television network with its own news group, you know, with, you know, ABC News. Utilize that. Like I said in another video, go on ESPN if you have to. This is stupid that he keeps going on this Comcast Universal owned network, walking into this fucking trap every single time. And that's what I'm talking about. It's the PR blunders over and over and over and over again, you know?
And you think after so many times that they would catch on to that, you know, learn from your mistakes.
You would think so. And then with the Josh stuff, you know, so that's the biggest issue right now from honestly, more than the financials, more than anything else, really, like the short-term stuff, it's the PR. They got to get the PR.
Well, and I think honestly, a lot of the PR is what runs into the financial stuff, because maybe if they would stop relying on what the PR is doing or saying or wanting them to do, maybe that's essentially what's hurting them, because based off of what they're saying because of PR, it's like, well, you know what? Now I don't really feel like going to the parks. Now I really don't feel like going to see the movies because of what they're doing and what they're saying. Sometimes, like, you just got to just step back a little bit.
Yeah. No, I know. So hopefully, you know, they can get that sorted. But this, you know, hopefully this line from Josh Giamaro about we can build another Disneyland, hopefully that's not a bunch of corporate like misdirects, you know, like hopefully he really means that. Hopefully he really means, hey, you know what? We could build another park if we so wanted to. And if that is the case, I don't know, a lot of fans aren't really talking about this, but if that is the case, if you really did mean a third park, that's huge. Disney executives have not murmured that at all. As long as I can remember, a third park, that's massive news that a Disney executive that runs the park division would say, hey, we could fit another park here in Anaheim if we wanted to.
And I have high hopes for that notion over even just a single attraction at Walt Disney World. Like now, like this, like the situation of how both coasts have like different, like of what they're going through right now, different statuses, so to speak, if you will. Yeah, I would put more money into an entire third theme park for Disneyland than one single attraction at Walt Disney World right now.
That's crazy. Yeah, you never know, man, because you know it's getting crazy out there with you know, in Florida and stuff, and it doesn't seem to be cooling off at all. The same old shit happening back and forth with Disney and DeSantis. It's tiresome, man. It's really tiresome. But let's switch gears now. Let's talk about this. This is a friend of the channel. We love Michael Ebba. Michael Ebba is awesome. He was actually the gentleman that didn't he gave you the idea for the Italian show last night.
He did.
Right?
Yeah, he's the one that actually put in that request, and I thought that was kind of interesting. He mentioned like the whole entire concept of it, and then another viewer of the channel that was on live, I forget her YouTube name.
Okay.
I forget her name. I do apologize. It's not in my head right now, but she also gave me the suggestion. She's the other Blackpink fan.
Oh, maybe.
That's. I knew it was something with an M. Maybe she was the one that suggested.
Oh, actually, you know, speaking of maybe, I have to ask you this, George. I have to ask you this before we move on to Epic Universe. She was in today when we went for the Italian food video, and she needs to know pineapple on pizza. What are your thoughts?
Okay, so I have had this conversation with the guys over at Bad Thoughts Podcast, and it's not that I don't like it. It's okay, but I can do without it. Like, it's not like like where it's like, oh my gosh, pineapple, it's blasphemy on pizza. It's just not for me. I think honestly, there's a lot of different ingredients that's not traditionalized with pizza that would kind of taste good. I'm just not a fan of like pineapple and ham for pizza. It's just not my thing.
Not your thing. But if someone served it to you, you'd be like, all right, I'll have it, right?
I'll have a slice. Yeah.
Okay. That's kind of where I'm at with it too. Like, I'm not completely disgusted by the idea of pineapple on pizza, but I mean, if it's what, like, if I'm at a party and that's what they got, I'll eat it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fine. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm much more particular when it comes to seafood. I really don't like seafood. So if you put a bunch of like anchovies on my pizza,
Yeah.
then I'm gonna have to say no.
And a nice coating of Parmesan cheese.
Oh, I know. I hate Parmesan. See, and that's what it comes down to too. I've said this many times. The seafood thing bugs me because of the smell. I don't really find it like that pleasant. Parmesan is the same thing. It doesn't smell good. So it's just like this kind of, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Telling you, man. Yeah. Those two things, dude. The smell, they smell pretty booty. You know what I'm saying? It just kills it for me, man. It kills it for me, But yeah. Anyway. Yeah. Anyway, speaking of smells and all that
Booty.
stuff, let's talk.
And booty.
Yeah, let's switch topics now, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is actually, in all seriousness, so this is about Epic Universe, right? And like I said, our friend Michael Ebba, and actually another friend of ours, Elizabeth Gates, who is fantastic too. They were having this conversation on Twitter, and I think it was really interesting. So Michael here says, so while cool, I was really hoping for Epic Universe that we wouldn't see as so many coasters, upside down, twisty, turny rides. In my opinion, for Universal to be at Disney's level, they need a park that caters to all, not have parks built for the extreme end of either spectrum. And he's right. And this is what we said in the Disney, I'm sorry, in the Universal Kids Park for Texas, right? Why don't you utilize some of those kid attractions and put them in maybe an Epic Universe so you have a more fleshed out park instead of the extremes where you go to Epic Universe and it's a bunch of roller coasters or that's tossing you around. Not even roller coasters. I mean, a lot of stuff, even stuff like Forbidden Journey, is hard for a lot of people. People don't understand that. Just because it's not a roller coaster doesn't mean that your 90-year-old grandmother can go on it. There's a lot of that kind of stuff at Epic Universe. So why not take some of the kiddie rides that you maybe are planning for the Texas park, and instead of building the Texas park on kind of like what it looks like, kind of on the cheap a little bit, right? I mean, at least from the concept art, okay, as of right now. Why don't you take some of those concepts and put them in Epic Universe and make yourself a really fleshed out park? This is the issue with Universal, is that if you want to be top dog Universal, you have to appeal to a broader demographic. Right now, Epic Universe is not really moving the needle in terms of demographic. It's the same demo as IOA. It's the same demo. It's that like thrill-seeking, younger, healthy crowd. And I know people are going to be in the comments. Well, OG, they're doing a how to train your dragon show, and what about Yoshi? I understand. It has some things for some people that are not thrill seekers, but for the most part, this is the issue I have with Knott's. As much as I love Knott's, I have a season pass now to Knott's. I'm a fan of that park, but when it comes to attractions, this is the problem that I have. It's either a steel roller coaster that like is just way not my thing, or it's Camp Snoopy. There's nothing in between really, except for maybe the log ride and the mine cart thing, and that's it. So that's the problem, and Universal needs to get out of that. Disney has been successful for all these years because they appeal to everyone, from your 3-year-old to your 93-year-old grandma. But go ahead, George. What are your thoughts on this, brother?
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree. And I actually had an issue with Universal back in 2014 when at the time my son had just turned 4, and we thought, you know what, let's experience Universal. And we waited in line to buy tickets at the ticket booth. And actually the team member was very honest with me. And she said, I'm going to tell you the truth. This ticket that you're going to buy for your son is a waste. Because she said right now, the only things that he can go on is just the couple rides at Seuss Landing. She said everything else in the park, he's not going to be able to do.
And that's coming from a Universal team member.
Yes.
So when people try to come at me with, oh, gee, you're just biased, man. You don't know what you're talking about. This is coming from a Universal employee telling George there's not much to do for his kid in this park. They're literally telling him this, right?
Exactly.
How old was your son at the time?
At the time, he just turned 4.
Okay. And that's what I'm saying. You can take your 4-year-old to Disneyland, no problem. It's different at Universal. And that doesn't mean Universal's a bad place. I'm not saying that.
But it's a different demographic.
It's a different demo. And if they want to be Disney, which I think they do, then you're going to have to expand a little bit. And I think that also this whole thing of like everything being separate, like, you know, oh, well, okay, fine. You know, we'll have very little for kids in this park, and then we'll have everything for kids in Texas. I just, you know, I think you're better off. Look, Walt Disney said he wants a park, right? When he built Disneyland, it was so the entire family can enjoy it. Correct. That was the mission statement for Disneyland. It's been a proven formula for all these decades now. Okay, where the parents and the children can have fun together. That was Walt Disney's mission statement when it came to these theme parks or Disneyland, right? Universal, utilize that. Learn from Walt Disney. Stop doing the whole like this is for kids, this is for older. Like make a really fleshed out park that incorporates a huge swath of the population, and I think you'll scare Disney a lot more. Now, Elizabeth Gates is a friend of the channel. We've actually showcased her tweets on here before. She's fantastic, and she's really, really fair. She's a big Universal fan, but she's extremely fair. She says here, I agree. So she agrees with Michael on this. I agree. I've been looking forward to Epic Universe forever and think it will be amazing, but it needed at least 1 or 2 more slow-moving dark or boat rides. Hoping for that in phase 2. Now, what do you think, George? I mean, like, do you think they will see that in phase 2 or some sort of phase 2? Or do you think that we're a long ways off from that? Because now when this opens, they got to address the other parks because the other parks are going to...
That might happen, but that's not going to happen for a while. They're going to have to deal with a lot of the obstacles and kinks that this park is going to endure just opening, which Disney has had their fair share of issues too. Let's be fair. But that's with any park. But you can't bite off more that you can chew. That if they're going to be dealing with everything as far as like with breakdowns and crowd capacity and getting everything together and say, okay, yeah, we just opened this. Now let's work on phase 2. It's if there even is a phase 2.
That's the thing too. We talk a lot on this channel about the cannibalization factor. When you have the new park, is that going to pull away from some of the weaker existing parks, right? So will it pull away from the Universal Studio Park? Well, I mean, you're going to have to invest money into the studio park now to offset the cannibalization of Epic Universe. So that there goes your phase 2 for Epic, basically. I mean, right? At least anytime soon.
Yeah, absolutely. It's and we even had that viewer that her husband works at Universal, and not only did she say that we thought, you know, the Studios Park, but IOA as well, which is actually very telling because Islands of Adventure is more popular in demand as far as the studios go. So if that's going to cannibalize that park, then the studios and Volcano Bay is really in a heap of trouble.
I don't know. It's crazy. It's crazy. And again, this is not to say Epic Universe will be a bad park. A lot of the images coming out from like Bio Reconstruct, which I highly suggest you follow him on X. He's awesome. He I guess he's a pilot, right, George, or something?
I think so. Yeah, I think he has like a specialty license, you know, to go like to a certain, like I don't know if it's like with a like a drone or like a helicopter type thing, but I mean, whatever he uses, whatever he does phenomenal work.
And he's been getting a lot of great pictures of Epic Universe from the air. And I gotta say, a lot of it looks really, really cool. A lot of it looks great. The monsters area looks dope, dude. Even the How to Train Your Dragon thing looks really cool. Now, George, I want to ask you though. Mm-hmm. I made it very clear. I've said in many videos, we talked about it before, and we get shit for it. But we're going to have a discussion. People can be mad if they want to be mad. My issue with this park is a lot of the coasters don't have a whole lot of theming to it, right?
Correct.
And the justification from fandom is, well, when the coaster, it's a giant steel coaster and it's going 80 miles an hour, you can't really theme it. Okay, that's fine. I guess that's fair, right? I mean, you can enclose it like they do Cosmic Rewind, but let's just say for argument's sake, it's too fast, it's too big, you can't enclose it. In my opinion, I was having this conversation with a friend via DM, a good friend of ours. In my opinion, I kind of feel like this park, Epic Universe, is relying heavily on these big coasters specifically because they know if they make a big steel coaster, they get kind of a pass with having to theme the actual attraction. Like if you make, for example, if you make a dark ride, you got to theme the whole fucking thing. It's a dark ride from stem to stern. It has to have theming. But if you build a roller coaster, right?
I'm sorry. Sorry, again. I hear you. I got you.
No, but if you build a roller coaster, a steel roller coaster, what are you theming then? All you have to theme is the queue.
And honestly, and I will say this, because again, on this channel, we're fair here. So now listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth, folks.
Was that a Rush Hour quote, George?
That is, yes, that is. Love Chris Tucker.
And actually, the soundtrack.
Love Chris Tucker. Oh yeah. Oh man. Awesome. Love Chris Tucker.
What?
Yeah. So if you take Tron at Magic Kingdom, you take even Cosmic Rewind at Epcot.
Right.
Those are full-fledged coasters. The queues are phenomenal. But the actual rides themselves, there's not a whole lot of theming.
No.
That's really on the why? Because as you said, OG, they're full-fledged coasters. So when you take Universal and they are just making just a typical steel coaster, whether it's majority of the times it's outdoors,
right?
Yeah, there's really nothing you can do for it. So yeah, you're gonna heavily queue out the shit of that with the coaster because there's nothing more for you to go by.
And that's why I think it might be a cost-saving measure to do that, because when you do that, you kind of absolve yourself from having to deal with theming the entire thing. You can have the coaster go over some grass, like Starfall Racers and things like that. And it's like, it's a big coaster, don't need to theme it, right? But if you build a bunch of dark rides, well, that's a whole other story. Now you got to do stem to stern theming, and that's costly. Yeah. So I know,
and that's why Universal, I feel like, doesn't do it. They stray away from it. Me thinking going into Universal Orlando, I've been to Universal Hollywood minus the tram tour, because the tram tour is its own, that's just phenomenal. But
I love the tram tour, dude.
Aside from The Secret Life of Pets, which is great. It's a great ride. Why? Because it's a dark ride. It appeases for everybody.
Right.
But I can't really say that Universal is known for making a lot of those kind of dark rides.
No, they don't. They've gotten better over the years, to be fair, but they're not. There's not a whole lot of that in those parks, And they're just, here in Hollywood, like you said, the tram. We got Secret Life of Pets. I would include Mario Kart in that. I think it's definitely a family thing. Most people can go on that, but it's farther and fewer between. So I don't know. It's interesting though. It's very, very interesting. And this Epic Universe is very heavy on these big steel coasters. Was that a conscious decision, a strategic decision by Universal to do that, knowing you don't have to theme the whole thing? It's a money-saving thing. Now, I know people think that Universal, for some reason, doesn't care about spending money and they have unlimited budget. Not true. They actually do care about it, and they.
But OG, there is someone that does care about the money.
Oh yeah, there is right here.
Brand new money, brand new hundreds, got a bunch of zeros like a bag of new Funyuns.
And
give me the drop some money, dropping on my money, drop some money.
Exactly. So yeah, it's interesting though. And look, this is a theory. So before people get on me like, oh, how do you know this? This is my speculation. I think that they're kind of going coaster heavy in this park because, well, when you only have to theme the queue, a lot cheaper, isn't it? You're saving a lot of money. Now, with that said, like I said earlier, the pictures coming out from BioReconstruct of some of these lands and some of the theming that they are doing looks great. Looks really good. Like the How to Train Your Dragon Lagoon with the big statues and stuff looks fucking dope, dude. And then the portal for the Dark Universe area, this looks really good. There's a lot of great stuff over there. But let's be real. Let's not shill, let's be real, a little bit, right? Just you can shill for both companies. You can shill for Disney, you can shill for Universal.
Let's not shill. Let's just be real.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. And so it's interesting stuff. But I want to thank Michael and Elizabeth Gates for a fantastic conversation on Twitter. We're friends with both of them, and they are both phenomenal. Definitely follow both of them. I'll link their Twitters, whatever, Twitter, X, whatever it is now, in the description below, so everybody can check them out because they're friends of the channel. And we support them. But any final thoughts, George, on either Epic Universe or even the Josh Giamaro comments before we take off today?
Yeah, in a kind of like a combined effort of the topics that we discussed today. Yeah, I feel like that Disney has to, if this is the case of what Demaro was saying, as I said, he just has to be careful with his wording if
Right.
he's meaning something else. But as I said before, I would put more of my money on a heavily expanded Disneyland project than just a single attraction going into Walt Disney World at the moment. That's very sad for me to say because I would love both resorts to stride and have these major expansions. But for Walt Disney World right now, I don't think that's going to be the issue. As far as with Universal, yeah, as I said, I would still love to see Universal succeed. And honestly, I feel like that if they do want to be on that level and compete with Disney, they kind of have to get on that level of having a little bit for everybody in one park. You can't
Right.
just do an all around teenager to early adult or just infant to toddler kiddie park.
It's the antithesis of what Walt was trying to do with Disneyland, and I'm using the word antithesis correctly as opposed to that Imagineer. Did you see that, by the way?
Yes, I did. I did see that.
Maybe we should do a video on that. Honestly, I kind of feel bad for her because
Yeah.
I think she obviously meant something else and used the wrong word.
Yeah.
And people are kind of jumping on her for that, and I feel bad. I mean, hey, I've said the wrong word. Everyone makes mistakes.
But here's the thing, though. I don't want to use the word blame, but I kind of hold Disney kind of responsible for that because that had to be pre-recorded.
Right.
So didn't somebody notice that when they were filming to say, you know what, you kind of spoke incorrectly, you used the wrong vocabulary.
Let's re-record it. Yeah.
Let's re-record it. They're the ones that put it out.
Right. Yeah, no, it's 100%. 100%. She misspoke. Fine. We're all human beings, right? But when you release something to the public like that, you got to have someone in there, like I would assume, like QAing that, making sure they're editing it, making sure everything is cool. I honestly never release a video unless I watch the whole thing through first. Never. The only time that I don't do that is obviously when we have our live shows because it's live. But if we're recording something, I always watch it all the way through. And I'll put it out there. You always have to kind of screen your work and just make sure everything is good first.
But isn't that also another one of like Disney's downfalls? Like whatever group is in charge of that, like when they make the signage or they do quotes or what have you, it's like, don't these people do their research or even double check their work before it gets sent and approved? Because our buddy Theme Park Casual has said this many times. It just doesn't go through one person. This goes through like a multitude process of so many people. So you mean to tell me not one person can figure that out and find the mistakes before it's like signed, sealed, and delivered?
Yeah, that's an issue. That's an issue right now with I think the parks. I know for Disneyland, it's been an issue with the signage, misspellings, incorrect dates, and things like that. And then now we're seeing like with these interviews, like people using the wrong words. It still gets through there. I don't know what's changed because I don't remember seeing this before a lot from Disney. So I don't know if they downsized or cut the department that was doing all that, or it changed. Maybe the process is different. I don't really know, but I think they need to get that under control.
Yeah.
Because you can't be having that. That was not a good look.
Yeah. No.
Hey, I mean, I feel, like I said, I feel bad for her. I mean, she obviously, she misspoke, and that's fine. But first of all, you embarrass her because you put it out there, and you embarrass the company, and it's so unnecessary.
Especially when they're talking about Walt. That's something.
Right. And our new thing is the antithesis of what Walt wanted or whatever. Walt's dream is like, whoa, that one word changed the whole thing. And it's like, come on, Disney, you gotta be cognizant of that. You gotta really make sure that when you release this stuff, and
that's what worries me about tomorrow. Like when he mentioned about a whole nother Disneyland, and you kind of just brought it up to my attention, and it's like, okay, he has to be careful with his words because it's like, which way are you going here tomorrow?
Right. What do you mean by that? Are you playing with us? Is it like a word game that you're doing here? Like collectively another Disneyland or actually another part, another Disneyland? So crazy stuff, George. Crazy stuff. But the Italiano, I want to thank you so much for coming on and joining me today. If you could let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media.
Absolutely. You could find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you'll find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There we go. Are we playing the Italian national anthem again? Hold
Let's
on.
do it.
For the Italiano, right?
Yes, absolutely.
It actually goes on for like almost like a minute and a half. You know, I've never actually played the whole thing, but it's long. It's like it's like a minute or a minute and a half or something like that. But
That's something.
yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, buddy.
And before we do go, OG, I'm sorry, this is another one of my favorite drops because we're going to get some heat for this, that we are a little bit of a pixie dusters, but of how we kind of answer to that.
Yeah. Call me a fucking pixie duster. I don't care. There we go. One more time. This song is a banger. Hey, Kaylee in the chat always talks about banger songs, like the Christmas parade song and all that.
Oh, yeah.
This song right here is a banger. There we go. But thank you all so much for watching. Comment down below with all your thoughts on possibly another Disneyland coming to the Disneyland Resort. What does that mean? Is Josh messing with us, or is he being for real? Is it really on the table? Is it really not? Also, Epic Universe.
Is it an antithesis? Who knows?
Yeah, is it an antithesis? And George and I have been talking about this demographics over at Epic Universe for a long time. It's kind of catering to the same demo that IOA caters to. Is it moving the needle for them at all? I don't think so. I mean, honestly, it feels like the same kind of thrill-seeking younger crowd that IOA kind of caters to. But hey, if you disagree, more than welcome to comment down below. We would love to hear your take on it. Thank you all so much for watching. OG55 and all your support for the channel over the years. And again, big shout out to Michael Leba and Elizabeth Gates for the fantastic tweets. You guys and you guy and you gal are awesome. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Take care.